think health has traditionally been kind of safety's poor cousin, you know, like
Yeah.
people really focus on the safety side of things, and health is something like between 600 and 900 people every year die as a result of a workplace like work related illness.
Mm.
So think silicosis, asbestosis, you know, like all of those yucky cancers and respiratory illness that people, you know, like traditionally construction, you know, concrete workers, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Um, and so, but people don't think about that. They just focus on, you know, the 90 to 100 or so that die, that go to work in the morning and don't come home that night, you know, die at work or whatever. So it's very one-sided in terms of that. So what we try and do is obviously really push the control measures for workplace illness as well as you know, the safety aspect. But yeah, this whole pandemic thing has just opened people's eyes to the fact that, you know, like they have to stop people getting sick at work, like they have to
Mm.
take these measures. And I still don't think people are taking it seriously. Like they're taking it seriously because they have to, because their business depends on it. But I don't think they really understand the true meaning behind what would happen. Um, yeah, and so it's been interesting talking to a few of my clients who really get it. Like we've got a big client at the port, and the CEO down there, he is just obsessed with this stuff. And when we had zero rates in New Zealand, he was having meetings with, you know, some very senior people across the industry that he works in, who were just like, oh, it'll be fine, just put some hand sanitizer out. And he was like, if even one person comes off a ship with it, it shuts down our entire port. Like it's not just our industry of what we're exporting. It's like every industry in terms of what we export. And yeah, they just didn't get it. And like 2 days later, we had our first case. So all of a sudden, everyone was taking it a bit more seriously. But yeah, it's been interesting.
So if a business is sort of starting to think about how they're going to adapt to COVID and come up with a bit of a plan, you know, how should they sort of get started? What's the process there?
Yeah, so it's been like we're still kind of learning about what level 2 is going to look like. But most businesses who were able to open in level 3, what they were required to do was to have, like, talking specifically construction and education. So schools obviously were allowed to open for essential workers, children under level 3 as well. So those industries, like if we look at construction, those industries had to implement a COVID-19 plan so that their site could effectively open. And they can be audited on those at any time. So
Mhm.
the industry bodies like CHASANZ, which is the Construction Health and Safety Association of New Zealand, they were awesome. They actually brought out a standard for like a COVID-19 standard. And it was only 7 pages, so it wasn't War and Peace. And literally most construction companies were ensuring that they, you know, that they read that and that they implemented it. So the main contractors are, you know, like the main construction companies on site, they sort of had this requirement that all the subcontractors had to come in with a plan. So
Mm.
anybody arriving on site had, you know, like basically they could contact trace them. They didn't have, they were able to answer questions around like where they'd been, who they'd been in touch with, whether or not they had like even like the slightest sniffle or cough, all of that kind of stuff. So there were measures put in place so that they could ask the questions and get those answers. Um, and then the actual physical stuff was more around, you know, people were taking temperatures, kind of like what you've seen the whole way along with, you know, like if you had to go to the doctor for whatever, you get your temperature taken outside. So like businesses have adapted really well. Or industries have adapted really well. It's been really interesting. One of our biggest clients is in the hospitality sector, and they've just spent weeks just working out what it's all gonna look like for them.
Mhm.
So that contact tracing is going to be like massive, and we're still figuring out what that looks like because there's a few apps out that have been brought out, and just trying to work out because you've also got to take privacy into account when it comes to that stuff. But I think for the most part, businesses are definitely taking it. They've implemented things and they're able to do it pretty well.
And I'm guessing one of the key things there is making it simple enough that it's achievable, but also comprehensive enough that it covers all the possible scenarios, because it's still very much like a learning, because we've never encountered anything like this before. So
Yeah, I think it was a massive, like, eye-opening, rude awakening for a lot of organisations. And I'm really lucky because one of my staff in Wellington, she was on New Zealand government's response to SARS, the New Zealand government response committee to SARS 15 years ago. So when this all happened, I got her to write a blog about what to actually do in terms of pandemic planning, because even I'd never heard of it before, like, what's a pandemic plan, like, how do you do that? And it was really interesting. It was so her advice back then, and literally we had no cases back then, but her advice was, this is going to come to New Zealand, and every industry that has more than 20 people, like every company that has more than 20 people, should have a plan in place now what to do. And I reckon maybe 1% of companies would have had that in place. And so when it did come to New Zealand, so her advice was really to get a committee together, kind of like a health and safety committee, but it was instead a COVID-19 committee, work out who was going to communicate, at what level to whom, work out whether the CEO needed to be on the committee, all of that kind of planning, sort of stuff that happens within any organization, so that the whole business continuity can, like, that could just sort of, just continue really, with minimal disruption. But yeah, we've just seen a lot of organizations just go, whoa, because, and they've just been thrown into lockdown, they can't trade, the stress that produces. And then I think when it comes to actually, like, okay, this isn't the end of the world, they could take a deep breath and then they're able to put measures in place. So it sort of happened, but it's happened later than it probably should happen.
Yeah. And if they don't know what to do, or they don't have the sort of like skills or understanding to sort of build these plans, that's where someone like yourself can help them out, right?
Yeah. So for example, the Electoral Commission, so obviously with all of our with the elections coming up, they had no kind of plan in place for any of this stuff, because who saw it coming? No one. And so we're helping them, and we're, like, our team are basically helping them decide what the elections are going to look like. So, how are people going to vote? And, we don't know what it's going to look like in September. So we have to work with them to come up with a plan for all cases, all scenarios. But yes, we absolutely, like, we've helped other organisations as well. So Electoral Commission's kind of way up here, so the government department touching all New Zealanders kind of thing. But then we've also got smaller clients who we've provided advice to and support to around what to do. But obviously our advice at the moment is, regardless of whether you are, operating in level 2 versus, level 1, level 3, level 4, it just needs to be the same. Like, you've got to keep that social distancing is super important. The PPE is super important. Contact tracing, super important. You need to understand where people have been, where they've travelled from, have they been self-isolating, and all of that stuff. So we use a system called Safe365, and we've got some great checklists on that we are recommending that people sign up to free of charge for 6 months, because they just want to help get the economy going again. And we've said if you sign up to that, then you've got access to multiple checklists. Anything from a working from home checklist right through to, if you're coming on site, whether you're a client, whether you're a customer, whether you're an employee, there's multiple checklists as to, to determine what level of risk you are exposing the business to. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. And is that accessible through your website, sorry, or how do you
Yeah. So people can either contact me directly, just on my email address, or and I can put them in touch with them. Or there is a link on our website, but that is just being updated because obviously this new system, the new free 6 month um, subscription has only just come into effect.
Okay.
And I don't know whether that link's working 100% yet, but yeah, we are working with them to get that up and running. So probably the easiest way would be to email me, and yeah, put you in touch with them. Yeah,
Okay,
but
cool.
it's a great opportunity
Mm,
to have access to something that can help you for free.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about the webinar that we're hosting with you. What will you sort of cover in that, and what will people walk away with at the end of it?
Yeah, so I've been talking to the Chamber for a while now about doing a webinar, and I did not expect it to sort of be happening during all of these crazy times that we're in. So,
Always the way.
um, yeah, so um, in general, we'll be talking a bit about the Health and Safety at Work Act and the levels of responsibility that people have. So, and we will be looking at risk in general, but then we'll be focusing on COVID-19 risk. Um, COVID-19 is a slow moving event. So it's really important that people treat it and implement risk measures like they would, treat any other risk within their business. So I'll just be helping to, I suppose, educate viewers on risk management strategies within the health and safety context, and then focusing on the risk measures that we can put in place for the control measures that we can put in place for an event, a slow moving event like COVID-19.
Mm.
So they should walk away with a bit of information around that, as well as just what to do in terms of like just that really high level control measures that businesses are being put in place under level 2 now that most organisations can open and will be opening. So every industry unfortunately is quite different
Yeah.
and does require a few sort of more different things. So beauty therapy is obviously something that, and hairdressing is something that people are talking a lot about at the moment for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And obviously they need, because they're high contact, they need quite different measures in place than sort of more of those low contact industries. But hospitality, tourism, like we'll be talking about what different sectors might need for that level 2 opening. Maybe a bit about well-being as well, because I think
Mm.
that's a big thing that's sort of come out of this, is that people are struggling. We've all been locked up for a long time now, and so when people do go back to work, it's up to employers to manage those psychosocial hazards as well. So we'll have a bit of a chat about that as well.
Awesome. And people will be able to bring their questions to you if they do have anything sort of
Absolutely.
industry specific. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be there to, I'll be there to obviously answer questions and hopefully give people a bit more knowledge and educate them so they can walk away with something new in their toolkit when it comes to health and safety.
Awesome.